The British government have been forced to boycott and suspend Greenpeace and the relations that they had with the state following their idiotic publicity stunt at Rishi Sunak's private property. So the whole thing is backfiring massively, and Greenpeace are losing their credibility every single day. You had a lot of people in the past who were just basic environmentalists. They were not really nuttery, eco-militant, net zero people who've been paying a lot of money to Greenpeace. I don't understand what people were thinking, because at best, Greenpeace, just like any other major organization, whether it's a charity or campaign group, these people have become so corporatist and bureaucratic that your money gets wasted. At best, it gets wasted. At worst, they are dodgy. We already exposed Greenpeace a couple of days ago on this channel, all the dodgy stuff that they've done throughout the years that nobody knew about because the media were not talking about it. But now, thanks to these idiots, going to Rishi Sunak's private house in Yorkshire to do this publicity stunt, they didn't even protest outside Downing Street. The majority of the public turned their back against them, and they said, well, this is just too far. And it makes no sense. What did you actually achieve? The reason that Rishi Sunak decided to give out more licenses to new oil and gas companies was because people put pressure on the Prime Minister in the country, saying you can't really just go full on net zero when people are going to be struggling and suffering every winter because you're forcing everything on them. So that's the whole point of them doing it. And they're basically pretending that somehow the government and Rishi Sunak is some sort of rogue right-winger who's doing it because of ideology. I mean, I wish, but no, that's not the case. We've got the Prime Minister's spokesman coming out to say that engagement with the group, Greenpeace, was no longer appropriate, stating that we obviously don't think that people who are accused of breaking the law should have a seat at the table in discussions with the government. I don't understand why there were already the existing links and connections. Can we not stop this weird relationship that politicians and governments have with major organizations? Just because someone is rich or just because some organization has a big brand doesn't mean that they automatically should get access, direct access to our government. It completely undermines democracy. Because you say the whole point of democracy is supposed to be one person, one vote, and everybody should be treated equally. But that's not really the case. Because if you manage to become someone like Bill Gates, who basically shaped his career by stealing ideas and getting other people to invent things, and then he basically became the master of patent, and he basically just got licenses for all those ideas, and is now selling himself as an inventor. And because now he's rich, and he says, I care about philanthropy, so I should get a seat at the table. And he gets invited to the United Nations, to COP26, COP27, to the World Economic Forum. He has meetings with government ministers from across the world. And that shouldn't be a normal situation in a modern civilized democracy. Anyway, we had DEFRA, the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, saying that it was no longer engaging with the group because of the stunt. They said that I don't think it's unusual for DEFRA and other agencies to engage with climate action groups. That's taken place for a number of years. But clearly, given their actions and the arrests last week, we don't think it's appropriate to engage with them. I mean, we knew what sort of behavior they have. Everything, again, as I said before earlier today, the politicians and the political system are a bunch of reactionary people. They are not proactive leaders. They simply react to events on a regular basis. And I'm sick and tired of this. What happened to genuine political leaders with conviction, with ideas, right or wrong? At least you knew where you stood with them. When the election came, you were like, okay, I'm going to choose to like Clement Attlee or Margaret Thatcher or Ronald Reagan. You know, some people say, well, I'll choose to dislike them. That's how it's supposed to be working, rather than fence-sitting and reactionary nonsense. So we also have Will McCallum, who's one of the co-leaders of Greenpeace, saying, burying your head in the sand isn't going to make the climate crisis go away. It's precisely because the government has effectively shut the door to civil society groups like Greenpeace, as well as ignoring warnings from the UN, its own advisors, and the International Energy Agency, that we need to protest in the way that we do. The bunker mentality on display from this current government is deeply damaging cutting ties with Greenpeace isn't going to help. Bunker mentality, this is the same government that legislated net zero. We literally have it written in law now to do net zero. This is one of the greenest governments we've had. And the country, generally speaking, we've made a lot of progress when it comes to CO2 emissions. Not that it matters, but these people care about it. So I don't understand their problem. How much more green do you want? Because they don't really care about green. They care about red. They want communism. And they've been quite clear about it over the years, that every single time you got these eco-militant activists, some sort of other social cause comes up that has nothing to do with the environment, they get involved. Whether it's the BLM movement, whether it's every single year we got the LGBT pride happening, somehow the eco-militant activists just get on the board. Like, how we're here now? Who wants to take a picture with us? I mean, it's just attention seeking. And it's not really about these people, because they are still the puppets of those with a lot of the green lobby money behind it. And those are the ones that we should be afraid of. But the problem is most of them are faceless. We don't know who they are, because they're not clear about the funding that they receive from across the world. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on this story as usual. I'm Mahyar Tousi, and we are the media.